Welcome to the heart of the matter. My name is Oyahiri Russell, and I'll be standing in for Pastor Wale Adefarasin today. Today's episode is different. We'll be doing something different because we are having a book review, and that book we'll be reviewing today is The Generational Succession Crisis in Nigeria. With me today, I have a few people to discuss this book, and I'll start from the lady because ladies first. We're talking with Tari Akio. We have Damola Adishino, and also Mr. Joseph Udo.
Thank you.
Today's discussion on the book, The Generational Succession Crisis in Nigeria, we'll be looking at various facets of this book. And we'll start first of all with understanding what generational succession is. And I'd like to throw that question open to my guests here. What is succession?
Well, it's basically passing a baton from one generation to the other. Whatever vision the generation has, it must pass on to the next generation, so that hundreds of years after, that vision is still speaking because it has been passed through several generations. I'm not sure.
Anybody else wants to add?
A son is supposed to be an improvement of his father. Mm-hmm. But in a situation where there are no improvement in the son, rather the father is even better than the son. And it then means that the baton was not passed on properly. So that can be seen as a crisis when a son is not better than his father.
Let us look at succession in the kingdom of God. And Tari, I would like you to start this off. What is your understanding of succession in the kingdom?
Okay, just to add a little bit to what Damola said, apart from just the vision, being able to pass down the vision from one generation to another, succession is also passing down a set of values and beliefs that have been put together or compiled by the person in one generation and is also passed down to another generation. So bringing in the kingdom of God, I think the kingdom of God, or even kingdoms generally, are all about succession. There can be no kingdom without succession. From the time the child of a king or the king is born, he is groomed to succeed his father. And God has always put the principle of succession into practice, starting from Abraham. It was Abraham, it was Isaac, it was Jacob, it was Judah, then there was David, there was Solomon, there was up to Christ. Christ still handed over to his disciples, and here we are today. So the principle of succession is a kingdom principle. It's something that you cannot take away, and it's something that we should always strive to promote if we want to build sustainable nations and institutions. Yes.
Let's go back to the book. Dr. Christopher Kolade, who forwarded this book, he says, and I quote, "The core of our national malaise in Nigeria is a catastrophic loss of values." What crisis, right? Let's talk about crisis succession in Nigeria. Where did that start from? What is that about?
If we talk about succession crisis in Nigeria, I remember when I was growing up then, the values that my parents used to hold very dear to them was good name, integrity, don't bring don't dirty my name, so don't go and disgrace me outside. That was the value. So when you go outside as a child, you are conscious of the fact that if I get back home and my father has a bad report about me, I will be dealt with. But over the years, we've seen that the values we hold high in Nigeria are not those values that were passed on to us. Now people put material things before integrity, for example. So you find in our nation, for example, somebody that has a big car, a big house, a fast account, is respected. But a man with ideas, a man of vision, a man that has integrity is despised. So you see that the values we hold there in Nigeria is warping, is getting, it's changing. And so you find that those values that we grew up with, that was holding our societies together, you find neighborhood, you find a man saying, "I saw your son You know, you can say, don't do that. Your father will not like that. But now, somebody comes home with a car, and the father says, oh, congrats, my son. How did you get it? They don't want to know. Just bring the car. And so you find that, you know, this society getting more decay because our values are not the values that can build societies. They are selfish values. They are, you know, values that put me before the common good. And you find that it's affecting the way we live and the productivity of our societies.
Going back to the book, let's take your favorite paragraph from that book.
Okay, it's on page 49. It's on page 49. Now, you need what I call the heart of a father to be a successful parent, corporate leader, church leader, government leader, or any kind of leader at any kind of level. It is said that there is no success without a successor. A person who is committed to a generational succession is one whose eye is constantly on the future, thinking about it, planning for it. He is passionate about pouring his life into potential successors and allowing them, you know, opportunities to step into his shoes, even when he's still wearing them, you know. So what I learned from here is that you don't wait until you are dead or until you are about to die before you pass on. But while you are still living, you can begin to, you know, pass on those values, you know, those things, your belief system, you know, you can begin to pass it on, you know, so that like Pastor said, so that if whoever you are passing this on to is making a mistake while you are still alive, you can still correct him, put him right, you know, while you are still alive. But if you are doing it when you are about to die, you know, you are gone. Of course, the young man is bound to make mistakes, and there will be nobody to put him right, to correct him. So it is better to do it while you are still living.
Hold that thought for a minute. We are going to go on a break. We are still on the heart of the matter. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the heart of the matter. We are still talking generational succession in Nigeria. Before we went on the break, we were talking about how the role of the father and how generational succession has been a problem in Nigeria. And we're going to continue now. We're going to be talking about the fear of succession by our leaders in Nigeria. And I would like to throw that question to Terry. The fear of succession of our leaders in Nigeria, what is that about?
I think it is people being afraid of being irrelevant or becoming obscure. Because when, of course, if you're running an institution, whether it's a church or it's a company or it's even a state or whatever, there are certain practices that you would have set in place. There are certain things that you would have been able to oversee to make sure that that institution is functioning properly. Now, if you let somebody else or other people within that institution know how to make it run, whether you are there or not there, a lot of people get afraid that if they know how to do it, then they will kick me out, or I become irrelevant. I don't have as much reverence as I would have anymore because other people now can do what I'm doing. But I think it's a misplaced fear, because make any institution being sustainable, that succession has to take place, except you want what you are building to die with you. Yeah. And the only way it will not die with you is if you pass it on to somebody, and that is by verbal communication, by allowing people access to come close to you to be able to observe you and watch what you're doing, and also being able to share those values and the reasons why you do certain things that allows people to know that, okay, this is what makes this institution function, and that way it can outlive you, even outlive the next person that you hand over to and all of that. So I just believe that it's a misplaced fear, a very selfish fear. And those people who have allowed themselves to be, allowed succession to happen within their institutions, they are the ones who you hear about them 100 years later. You hear about them 200 years later. But those who have allowed that fear rather to have dominance are the ones who, with the lifetime of the visionary, everything dies. Yeah.
So Damola, could there also be the fear of risk, that these people that I'm handing my company over to or my business over to are not capable?
Well, it's possible. It's very much possible, which is why one of the things that this book recommends is the fact that much before you even think about retiring, you get somebody else, and you're going to train that person to be able to be more capable than you, if possible, to take over. Because when you started, if you start an institution, for example, you will start on you take a lot of risks. Trial and errors will come in, and then before you stand on your feet. But when you get somebody else to take over from you, before you even die, the person was already running the street. You are at the back, correcting, watching, and training the person to take over. So it's possible, but at the heart of it, as Tari said, is the fact that it's a selfish attitude, and it's a dearth of character. Because any person that wants a vision to outlive him or her must think succession.
We must go beyond personal interest, because succession must be beyond personal interest. It's all about who can take this vision to the next level, into the future. It's not all about whether the person is your biological son or not, but it's all about competency. It's all about who you think can be able, to carry this beyond, even when you are gone, that in the future, the name of this company will still be alive, and that it will not die down. So I see that those are the fears that some of these people have, or the challenges.
If I may ask, I want to ask a question. That fear, biologically, spot on. But I want to ask, is it not a valid fear? I mean, you're a father. I'm sure you want certain things you built to be enjoyed by your biological children. So how do you bridge the gap between that desire of a father or a mother, whoever, that their own children should partake in whatever it is they have built? And I mean, yes, succession shouldn't be just your biological child, but I mean, we're human beings. We want our biological children to enjoy what we have built. So how do we bridge the gap in that kind of situation?
In the situation where your own biological children are not capable, you won't, because they are not capable, die with what you have built. Okay? You just have to pass it on with the faith and belief that whoever that you are passing it on. You see, as I was growing up, I got to understand something, and which is very important, that look, like my people say, you don't bite the hand that fed you or that feeds you, okay? Now, people shouldn't be scared. Why? Because if actually or truly you have built these values in this person, which is the character I'm talking about, okay? I don't see any time that this person will sit down and forget you. Even will want to even forget your family, okay? He knows that, look, without you, he wouldn't have become anything. So whatever that he's doing, he will still look to you or beyond you or even to your family. But you see, the fear of so many, because people will say, look, I have tested him, but he has failed, and all of those things. But there's nothing in life that can be done without faith. We must have faith. Even the food that we eat, it is by faith. Our going out, it is by faith. But we don't know what will happen to us when we step out of the house. But we step out of the house believing that we are coming back. So that is faith. So in faith we live, in faith, by faith we walk. So everything has to be based on faith, believing that this person that I'm passing this thing on to will not disappoint me. And like you said earlier, by relationship, interaction. But I discovered that today, many leaders, they are so busy that they don't even have time to spend with their, whoever they think they want to pass on this baton to. No time. They are always busy attending one board meetings or the other. Tomorrow they're in London, next tomorrow they're in US. There is no actually time. And when they are back, something else is coming to take their attention. So you find out that there is that a gap between them and whoever that they think they want to breed, for this, or for their vision to be carried on into the next generation.
Let's talk more about this relationship thing, because I believe it's very important in being able to effectively communicate values and vision. I mean, I'll give an example of myself. In the case of Pastor Wale, one thing I know that I have gotten into my relationship with him is that he has this ability to delegate. He's not afraid to leave the position and allow somebody to come in, and you can see that I'm here today. So let's talk about those kind of relationships. How important is relationship?
Well, I think that it still boils down to the values that we're talking about, because a person who is willing to leave the stage for somebody else will be willing to not only pass on the vision, but teach the values that will hold and support the vision. So you find that one of the things that is so important in the visionaire is the fact that, when you get a vision, you, because of the way you got it, there's a passion in you to drive the vision. So you must communicate, you must sell the vision to the other persons, and also make sure that they also generate that same passion for that vision. And that's why the vision must be something that is sellable. It must not be selfish, it must be other-centered. So you find somebody that says, I want to put a laptop on every desk, every table in the world, every room in the world. That is beyond me vision. So when you start that kind of vision, people you are relating with, first of all, they must see the passion in you. They must see the drive you put behind the vision. And that is what now brings them to buy into that vision and say, if this guy can be so passionate about this thing, there's something about this thing. And then when they are bought into it, then relationship starts. Then we start, telling you, this is what I did, this is the mistakes I made, this is what you two should do. And so you train the person, you relate with the person. So you find that Christ, for example, and the disciples, before they could buy the vision from him, they had to be with him almost every day. They saw his character, they saw his mannerism, they wanted to learn from him because of, they saw him from, he was there and they were here because of the way his character was supporting that vision. So relationship is so key. So the person must see me. I must not be afraid of letting the person see the other side of me that is not so palatable, because when you see public figures outside, you tend to make a demigod out of them, but when you get closer, you know that they are human anyway. So you must not be afraid to let people see that those are sides that are not so commendable. So they must understand that you don't have to be perfect to run this vision. I am who I am. With my character and my values, I still have these flaws. But despite that, I'm still chasing this vision. So when the person gets close to you and sees how, it's not only the what, but the how and why of the vision. If with this same passion this person put it into it, the vision is succeeding, and I can put the same passion and also build on that to drive the vision. So the person must relate with you, he must see you, it must be a relationship before the person can take over from you.
Before we continue, I would like you to read for us a paragraph in the book, one that you really like.
Well, it's not really a paragraph, it's a caption.
A caption.
And it's on page 99. It simply says that values are the heart of what fathers teach. Values are what one generation passes down to the next. So you find the Bible says that God says, I know my friend Abraham, I will command his children to follow me. So God was boasting about Abraham, that his children will follow the same vision I've given unto him. The vision God gave him was that I will give this land to your children. That was a big thing. And it was going to live beyond Abraham. So for that vision to come to pass, the values that Abraham learned from God must be passed to his children. And those values are values that, obedience, those values of character. So, for that vision that God gave him to succeed, he needed to teach his children the same principles. So values are so important. And when you look at the whole world, it was created by God. You find that there's some laws of the world. You don't have to be a Christian. If you practice the law, you will get the results. So, for example, 1 + 1 is 2. Anywhere you go in the world, it's the same 2. Before scientists knew 1 + 1 was 2, it was there. So we had to discover it. So the world runs by principles of God, whether you know God or not. So when you apply those same principles to any vision you have, it will outlive you, no matter what.
Now let's talk about building institutions. In the book, Pastor Wale was very passionate about his early days when he used to go to Kingsway stores and Liberty stores, and to the dismay of him and many, the stores, they don't exist anymore. How do we build institutions that would outlast us, our children, and our children's children?
I think beyond values culminate to form a culture, right? And culture is everything in an institution. Culture is the way of life. Culture is the way things are done. Culture is the sum total of all the beliefs, attitudes, everything that people within an institution have. And how do you build a culture? You build a culture with consistency. What you do over and over again within an institution becomes a culture. I'm currently reading a book. It's called Challenges in the Race for Excellence, and it's written by Sheikh Maktoum, the ruler of Dubai. And what he's really saying in the book is about how from childhood, every Dubai citizen is inculcated with that culture of excellence, not to expect less than a certain standard for themselves, individually and as a nation. So whatever it is they are trying to create or trying to build, it has to be of a certain standard. The passion they commit to any project or any venture has to be of a certain standard, and that thing is such a way of life for them. I'm sure we've all heard the success story of Dubai, but it is driven by that culture of excellence. Culture is something that I'm glad to say we also have here in Guiding Light Assembly, that Pastor Wale has been able to, with his personality, exemplify for a lot of us. For example, his humility. I don't think there are many people around here who like to see themselves as the all in all, because the person who is our leader shows a certain kind of humility in the way he interacts with everybody. So we too, we have picked that up, and it has become a culture in GLAs. Other things like maintenance, other things like cleanliness. Because of what has been set before us, we have also imbibed that. And where other institutions stand, Guiding Light can stand as an institution because of those cultures that have become, our lifestyle, more or less. So culture is vital in the building of any kind of institution. So, and it lies with the visioneer to set the culture by his own lifestyle, like Brother Joseph said, and other things that are done on a consistent basis for that to stand for long.
So, Tari, we are not taking your own special part of the book.
My favorite part, funny enough, relates to what I was talking about. It says here, I see a lack, on page 118, Pastor Wale is saying, I see a lack of fathering in all of these things. For instance, in our church, I try to inculcate in people a culture of maintenance. When our people notice that when I'm walking along the corridor and I see a piece of paper, I always pick it up and throw it into the bin. They understand that they also need to do that. This is how a maintenance culture is developed. So there is a responsibility the father has to ensure that people understand why he maintains things. But when they do not see any exemplary behavior and a poor maintenance culture develops, they will also begin to watch as things get destroyed. Unfortunately, this this is what has happened in the Nigerian society. You know, for me, this couldn't be said any better. And of course, we all pray that things will get better in Nigeria by the time we all start to apply these things. But that is something that we know always kills institutions in Nigeria, that lack of maintenance culture, that people, you build something so great, but then as you are celebrating that great achievement, there is also still despair in your heart because you feel like, is this thing 10 years down the line, is it still going to be here? So we need to adopt a lot more of those cultures to help us sustain our institutions and build better ones. Yeah.
Thank you, Tari. Thank you, Damola. Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Thank you, our viewers, for joining us for this episode of The Heart of the Matter. You can get the book at Latina Ventures, and the numbers will scroll across the screen where you can also call and you can also order your copy. Till we see you same time, God bless.